Well, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Three Addict Network stream. I am merrymitch, and I'm here to wish you a wonderful day. Hoping that this stream meets you in some high spirits, and that you're ready for a little bit of reading time. Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready. I apologize for being a little bit late to the punch. Had some tea to brew, and a little bit more morning goings-ons, if you will. But yeah, now we are here and ready to begin today's stream. Let's see. How's everybody doing? Are we feeling good? Well, let's see. How am I feeling? I hear you ask. I'm doing well. I got up this morning, had some breakfast. I went to bed a little bit later than I'd intended, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I'm a little bit disappointed. We ended up not having the D&D game that I was meant to DM last night due to one of the players being unavailable at the last minute. But hey, it's okay. That kind of stuff happens more often than you might think when it comes to D&D. And the main thing is that you try your best to get together the next time. Hey, what's up, Remy? How you doing? Let's see. I've been working hard at the trailer. I've got a little bit of a small edit to make on the Three Addict trailer, and then it'll be ready to rock and roll. We found that, I made the trailer and it ended up being not 60 seconds, but about 65 seconds, I think. And Twitch is pretty strict when it comes to that. They won't even let you upload a video that's longer than 60 seconds. Yeah, D&D in adulthood, yeah, it can make things a little bit tougher as far as scheduling goes, but alas, we're making it work. Hey Bebo, how you doing? Welcome and thank you for the
hydration. It is time for hydration. Are you ready? Delicious. Delicious water. Thank you for redeeming hydration. This has been the portion of the stream where merrymitch drinks water.
It's not hydrate, but it is hydrate. Wait a second. Don't confuse me, Bebo. Come on. Well, let's see. That's about, I think, all I had to update you on. Yesterday, though we didn't get to do the full session with the whole crew, we did get to do a one-on-one session with one of my players, which was a lot of fun. The week prior, I felt that I had let her down because and I think I even mentioned this on stream, but there was a moment where the crew was sung to from a cavern by a siren, and some failed their saves and were drawn into the cave, but of the three who managed to make their save and weren't charmed by the siren's song. One of them, the player's character name was Baggy. Baggy ended up staying behind to guard the ship and, watch over things on the Bitter Duke, as it were. And man, when they went into the Siren's Cave, they had this really awesome battle, with some cool charm mechanics and such. But the one that stayed on the ship, in the next session, the things that I had thought of, that I had planned to do with her on the ship, like to do a little solo session of, hey, what happened while she was on the ship. The things that I'd come up with, I decided that it would be better to experience it with the whole crew together. So I ended up just skipping over that and just moving straight on to the point where the whole gang got back together. The whole party came back together, but that was a mistake. She ended up really disappointed that, nothing actually happened on the ship, and she missed out on the cool siren fight for no reason. So this time around, yesterday, I was able to remedy that, which I feel really good about, honestly. Yeah, it was super cool. I thankfully, with that week to plan and, think on it, I was able to come up with a pretty fun encounter for her to take on, while she was on the ship. Was that the ship guy? Yeah, Bebo, you remember. Ship gal, mind ya. What? Wheel dung? Wheel dung? What? What is a wheel dung? Is that what they call the dung that a beetle pushes around? They call it well, that would be more like a dung wheel, but if you could say the opposite way, it would be a wheel dung, right? Also, I just viscerally felt myself get happier when this song came on. Any idea why? The reason is this is a song by one of my favorite artists, Tennyson. It's a little duo, a lady and a guy, who put together the most adorable and uplifting songs I've ever heard. If you want to know my favorites, go check out Fault Line and Beautiful World by Tennyson. You won't regret it. It'll bring a smile to that there face. Yes, that face. The one I'm looking at. It'll bring a smile to the face that is on your noggin. And yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, Tennyson, they just have a way of I don't know, making their songs bright, bubbly, So yeah, yesterday, and I guess I can tell you guys about it. Not the other players though, because they have to wait to find out what happened from Baggy herself. But it was pretty fun. She ended up fighting knife wielding monkeys. She has some beef with the Pirate Queen. The Pirate Queen lives in Bonobo Bay, and Bonobo Bay is populated mostly by, sentient monkeys. And so, the Pirate Queen decided to send some knife-wielding monkeys, some knife monkeys, if you will, to try to assassinate Baggy. She had to fight him off, which was pretty good. I even went through the effort of, kind of pulling her aside with one of the NPCs, with the NPC needing some advice. And so the NPC asked for the advice, but in the midst of that advice, he stood to go ahead and make the call, or send the message that he wanted to send to the person that he cared about, that he was asking advice about. And when he stood, he got stabbed by the knife monkey. But lo and behold, Baggy managed to save the NPC from getting stabbed with one of her D&D skills, which is this thing where if somebody gets hurt within her range, she can transfer that damage to herself. So the way that we worked it story-wise was that Bill stood up and she caught the glint of the knife from the knife monkey just in time to throw a rune, whoosh, boomeranged around to catch the knife, have the knife go through the rune and appear, stabbing into her clavicle. And she took the brunt of the knife monkey's force in that instance. And it was good too, because with them being assassins, they had sneak attack damage, so it was a solid 15 damage. And with them being around level 4, that was some spicy damage, if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's see. Hope you enjoyed my little rant about D&D stuff. Let's see. I think that's an alright camera angle. Also, did you like the Mitch dancing in the goyle on the start screen there? I put that together like 5 seconds before hopping in here. And shoot, I hope you enjoyed that. Alright, now let's pull up the next story on the docket. Yeah, Knife Monkey. Knife Monkey. Not quite as powerful as Tech Monkey, but Knife Monkey is probably a close second. I also brewed myself some nice tea, so it'll help my voice as we dive into this story. Let's check on tabletop audio, see if we can find the right ambiance for this. Oh man, this one's a little too intense, I think. Because I remember at the start here, and we are going to restart the story. I know we didn't make it too far in, and last time I had the delight of trying to read it in the ooh-woo voice. But it was sort of like a waiting room that she was in at the start there. Wow, definitely too hot still. Too hot to sip at. Okay. Which ambiance? Hang on, heck. I can pull this over and show you guys. Probably not a country workshop. Maybe just an inn ambiance, cause oh god. Cause at the start she walks into like a warehouse that is Also, I mean, I feel like it's kind of like an underground fight ring vibe, but I don't know what ambiance would fit an underground fight ring. Maybe some noir? Question mark? If we drop the volume down quite low on that one, this one could do. Yeah. Kinky ins are in right now. If you'd believe it. I know I was doing a fake laugh there, but it turned into a real one. Those are the best fake laughs too. Genuinely, I recommend people try uh either forcing themselves to laugh or fake laughing from time to time, cuz genuinely uh even if it's faked, it still uh you know does good things for your soul and your body and your mind. You know, if Tofu-chan had anything to say about it, he'd tell you to laugh. In fact, yeah, laughing makes you feel good.
皆さん、こんにちは。It's me, Toph-chan. When you laugh, your brain releases endorphins. Your stress hormones are reduced, and the oxygen supply to your blood is increased.
It's a
I
smart man.
try and laugh several times a day, cause it makes you feel,
Feel
good.
good.
So let's try that.
Ahaha.
Come on, trust me, you feel good. You can do it. What a story, Mark.
My name is Mitch, Tofu-chan. Come on. My name is Mitch. Not Mark. But hey, you know, you can't get too mad at the guy. All right. Well, hey, let's jump into this story, huh? And genuinely, I hope that did get you to smile. Because it make you feel good. I'm hoping most people know about Tofu-chan. If you don't, you should. Ah! It is too hot. It's too hot of a thing. Alright. Give me one moment. I'm gonna post the live now notification. To people far and wide. Merry Mitch is live. On the Three Attic Network. Alright. Well, let's see what this story is all about. If it's gonna be a silly one, or if it's gonna be a more serious one. It's got, a lady riding a unicorn, but who knows? She does also have she's also wielding a flaming sword, so we'll have to find out. Now, sit back, relax, and get ready for this midday story. Read to you by me, Merry Mitch. This is Heads Will Roll by Lishmi by Lish McBride. The warehouse air burned along my skin after the crisp snap of the outside weather. The new warmth didn't make me loosen my jacket. Warm or not, I wasn't going to get too comfortable. I kept walking, scanning the milling group, searching for the sign-in spot, knowing that I'd stop feeling the chill in a minute. Sometimes the arenas aren't heated or air-conditioned, but apparently this one had enough income to tend to these things. Of course, the combatants fight better if they're warm, so I suppose the heat is in the management's own self-interest. A skinny reed of a man with a whiteboard sat at a table in the middle of the room, pointedly ignoring everyone. I cleared my throat to get his attention. He kept writing for a moment, and then without looking up said, "Name?" "Lena," I said. He grabbed a list to his left and scanned. Finally, he made eye contact. "You with Phantom?" I nodded, shoving my hands into my pockets. I had to do my best not to laugh. I was supposed to be a cold-hearted handler, which means no giggling. But seriously, Phantom? Only in Steve's dreams. The man frowned at his sheet. "And Phantom is a unicorness, correct?" Again, I nodded. "Are you sure he's gonna fight?" He looked skeptical. I kept my gaze on him, solid and heavy. With some people, you don't even have to glare. "Because sometimes they refuse," he continued. "Phantom will fight." He always does. "Good. You won't get paid if he doesn't." He checked something off of the form and put it away. "Go around to the side entrance. Phantom will be in prep stall B. Please follow the instructions there, or he won't be allowed to fight. Keep him away from the other combatants. If there's any trouble, he won't fight. The judge will check you." He glanced at the sports watch on his wrist. "In about half an hour. Your fighter ain't ready. He don't fight. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Yes, sir." What I wanted to say was, maybe you should repeat it one more time, in case I didn't quite get it, genius. Steve would be so proud of me for holding my tongue. The man glared at me, I think searching for sarcasm in the "sir." Then he jerked his head toward the door. "Go." My boot made a loud squeak as I turned on my heel and went back to the trailer for Phantom. Phantom is a stage name. The name Steve isn't intimidating, nor does it sound like the kind of name a unicorn should have. Or at least the kind of name that people think a unicorn should have. Unicorns pick their own names, and I'd love to see someone go up to Steve and tell him he chose poorly. I, for one, would think twice about it. The trailer we travel in is banged up on the outside, and I can barely see anything through the exterior slats. It desperately needs some paint. A nice new trailer would stick out at the fights, so we keep it looking dingy. The inside, however, is plush, and I took out the divider between us so that we could listen to audiobooks and music together on the long drives. We fight over radio stations a lot. Steve prefers to be covered for transport. A thin blanket keeps him warm and blocks out everything but his eyes, nose, horn, and the lower half of his legs. What can be seen, I've blackened with shoe polish. His coloring will cause a stir, and I like to leave the upset until the last minute. On our way from the trailer, we passed a yowie manacled to the back of a truck. Its stench was instantly recognizable. If you left the most fetid, nasty gym clothes to fester in a closed, hot locker for a summer with a dead swamp rat, you might get close to the smell of a yowie. They're sort of like a rabid, vicious, no-neck cousin to Bigfoot, except they're completely brainless. Not too surprising. Everyone was giving it a wide berth. Steve and I were met at the back entrance by two bored-looking thugs acting as guards. The cops were paid to look the other way, but that didn't mean guards weren't needed in case undesirables showed up. Taking a good look at them, I decided that the thugs probably judged desirably by wallet size alone. Steve snorted in agreement. He didn't think much of the hired muscle either. I felt Steve's mental presence in my head. It's warm and bright, like sunshine, and for a second, I could smell springtime and flowers. The first time Steve spoke in my mind, I thought I had a tumor. It's like a full-body hallucination. You smell and feel things that aren't really there. This time, Steve was informing me that the guards, like most humans, have minds like open cesspools. He doesn't think much of people. Can't say I blame him. Unicorns are champions of nature, and man spends his time destroying it. So yeah, we're not exactly in Steve's top 5 favorite things. I'm pretty sure we're right behind fungus on his list. The sunshine in my head told me I was exaggerating, and I rested a hand on Steve's shoulder, letting him know I appreciated him too. Once I got Steve into his stall, I removed his leg warmers. The action was robotic, habit. My eyes wandered as I went through the motions. There were a few dozen stalls in the kennels, most of them full. Steel and reinforced concrete on all sides. There were heavy doors on them, each with a lock. I didn't use my lock. Evenly spaced drains marked the floors, as did dents and scorch marks, evidence of creatures that got out of control. All the concrete on the walls was painted white. Everything built in an easy-to-wash kind of way. I patted Steve on the flank. The gentle slap sounded odd in the stall. I leant in and breathed his scent, his hand scratching along the bottom of his jaw. I pushed my mind into his, wondering, not for the first time, if my presence was unpleasant to him. Steve may be sunshine and springtime, fresh grass and butterflies, but I'm the sound of creaking leather, the smell of sweat and blood. I'm battle cries, death rattles. and the light touch of a swan's feather. Steve nudged me back into reality. We don't have to do this, I reminded him. We can simply break the locks, free the creatures, and walk away. Only we couldn't. It's too easy to just buy a new lock. So I get on with it. The stall we were in was long, rectangular, each side covered with posters, flyers, and a large red and white instructional sign. I didn't need to read it to know that it said no weapons, no interfering, and no poison. That was why I pulled off Steve's blanket. Each animal got a thorough bath before the fights began. The judge would come and check his coat for poison, his hooves for weapons, sharpening, and any illegal advantages. The shower seemed ridiculous to me. Poison wouldn't last on Steve's coat. Unicorns and poisons just don't mix. I yanked off his hood and heard a small gasp. Steve flicked his muzzle, motioning me to turn around. A scrawny teenager with a broom stood in front of the stall, goggling. Wow. 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 He paused to swallow and flushed a little when he caught my look. Sorry, it's just that we don't get many like him, and never white ones. Of course not. White means purity, and there wasn't much purity in this building. I couldn't help a small smile. You want to touch him? The kid's eyes went wide, and he started to reach out, but pulled his hand back. I noticed a thin, puckered scar snaking up his arm. He followed my eyes and tugged his sleeve a little, self-conscious. Nemean lion, he said. The kid was lucky he still had an arm, and a body to go with it. The thought must have registered on my face because he got a little defensive. It was just a baby, he said, and it was so cute. How was I supposed to know? That he was a sweet little fuzzball of death? I asked. Look around. I gestured to the stables, the scorch marks, and the Hydra 3 stalls down that was trying to chew through his chains. Even with 7 heads, he couldn't manage it. Assume everything can tear off your face, and you'll be okay. I handed him a curry comb and waved toward Steve. But this one won't bite you. I grabbed another brush and started on the opposite side. Cute baby Nemean lions. Geez, who was this kid? Steve snorted and leant into me. I knew what he meant. It's always surprising where innocence hides. You can even find it in a place like this. The kid paused in his brushing to trace a couple of the raised scars down Steve's hide. He's, fought before? A few times, I said. More times than I could count. I thought they were hard to damage, he said. They are. They are. I went back to brushing. Most people won't use unicorns to fight. Too unpredictable. Too independent. You don't rule a unicorn. You're a partner at best. And the people who do use them to fight don't have white ones. They train them like you train dogs for a cage match. Get them young as you can. Starve them. Beat them. Spill blood into their milk. Give them a taste for it. Keep them hungry and angry all the time. Pervert them until they don't know which way is up anymore. That's how you make a unicorn. A natural pacifist. A fighter. Of course, the taint shows up in their coats. The few I have seen fight have been black, red, brown, gray, anything but white. But there is another way. Find one that thinks the way you do. That sometimes fighting is right, necessary. That bloodshed is the only possible method to make people learn the hard lessons. Meld with them until you don't know if you're getting them on your side or if they're getting you onto theirs. A strange, violent harmony. Sunshine glinting off a slashing blade. The creak of leather armor in springtime. Steve nudged into my thoughts to let me know that I would make a terrible poet. The kid reluctantly handed me the curry comb. I better get back to work, he said. What's your name? I asked. Jonah. Jonah? He said. Jonah. How long you been working here? A couple of months, he said. He said it nonchalantly, like he couldn't be bothered to know how long exactly, but I had a feeling that in the back of his brain, Jonah had been tallying the exact minutes. 6 months, probably. 6 months, and I bet he'd still try to pet a Nemean lion. That long in the muck, and Jonah continued to believe in good. I could see it in his eyes, even if Steve hadn't let me know. The kid looked like cannon fodder to me. Steve snorted again. His version of a laugh. Why here? I asked. Dad's dead. Mom has to stay home a lot with my sister. He looked about 14, maybe 15. Too young to get more than a few hours at a crappy job that underpaid him. Too young to get a job to pay the rent and put food on the table. Pay that good? I asked. He gave me a shy smile, ducking his head back down to look at his broom. Beats mowing lawns, he said, pushing his shaggy brown hair out of his eyes. Yeah, I wanted to say, but the lawn never tries to eat you. I couldn't handle it. I grabbed my wallet and took out all the cash I had, which was just shy of $300. Do me a favor, Jonah. The scrawny kid looked up from his sweeping. Sure. 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 Sure, he said. He didn't even ask what the favor might be. Definitely cannon fodder. I shoved the money into his hand a little harder than I meant to. Take the rest of the day off, kid. Please. His eyes bugged a little at the money. I can't, I can't. Yes, you can, I said. My boss, should be beaten for hiring a kid. But I kept that to myself. Most of these places hired kids. I never got used to it, though. I fingered one of the long scars down Steve's withers. Just tell them your mom's sick or something, okay? Jonah nodded and shoved the money into his pocket. He shuffled nervously on his feet for a minute, seeming unsure as to which way to go. Finally, he leant his broom against the wall, nodded, and walked out the door. Steve turned his head toward me and shoved my chin with his muzzle. I leant my face against the soft velvet for a minute, and then went back to brushing him. tea could use some honey. But it's at a proper temperature now. Just about burnt my lip. Think I might have actually. Is my lip red? That's a dumb question. Frick. Lips are always red. Blast it all. What kind of tea? I have that blend of green lemon zest kind of tea. I forget, it's like a mixture of green and a bunch of other stuff. I think I taste a hint of lavender in there. It's pretty nice. But primarily green. Yeah, I have a feeling that's, it's just kind of one of the attributes of adulthood, is burning your mouth on hot liquid at least once or twice a day. It's pretty good. As I said, I could use a spot of honey. So far, I wanted to pause for a second and give my thoughts so far, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I remember, and the reason why I went with this kind of noir type of background is I realized that this story is a bit more serious than I had expected. It, of course, has some pretty solid and sweet moments of humor in some places, but it's that type of humor that is engulfed in muck, if you will. Right? That type of humor that is surrounded by darkness. And I think it's going for that for a reason. It's really driving in this concept that this one white unicorn is sort of a light in the darkness, right? It's like a blood hunter from D&D, right? It's a character that is going into the dirt, the grime of the world, joining into that grime, but not letting it corrupt them, but instead going into that grime and being like the OxyClean. The yeah, we'll go with OxyClean. It's being like the OxyClean that drives into the muck and, man, purifies things through violent bubble magic. Or foam. What was it? Foam magic? Trying to think of the commercial. Oh, you're confused? I could catch you up, Emerald. Essentially, our main character is bonded with a unicorn. But unicorns in this world have been often abused and used like cage match dogs, where the unicorn is beaten, grabbed at a young age, beaten. There's blood that's put in their milk so that they get a taste for it. They're just very mistreated, so that once they get into the cage for fighting, they go wild. But whenever that happens, their coat acquires the stain of that corruption, right? So you'd never normally see a white unicorn in one of these cage matches. And I think they live in this world where monsters are pretty prevalent. And so I think our main character is a monster trainer, essentially. But is one of the monster trainers that actually treats their monster with respect and love. Treats their monster as a partnership. Yeah, honestly, Pitch Black Unicorn is pretty dang metal. Shoutouts to Blackjack from Percy Jackson, my homie. If anybody else knows about Percy Jackson, you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, let's see. But yeah, and currently, we don't know a whole lot about the world, but that is what I've gathered thus far, as to the state of this world, or at least the information that we need to know. So she's entered this fighting ring with her unicorn, named Steve, and it seems like they're about to take part in the battles, but it's unclear. It seems like they might be about to try to break out all of the monsters there, save them, if you will. But I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to find out. All right. Yeah, want to give a couple seconds just in case anybody else has questions. Oh, why do they fight? The monsters fight because they're forced to, I imagine. The humans take them and put them in the cages and say, "Fight for our amusement." And then the monsters in the fight go, "Yes, we will fight for your amusement." And then they battle each other. They tear each other's lungs out and organs and such, and and the people are pleased, and money is spent and betted upon them. And then yeah, people walk away. One monster dead, the other victorious. One a champion, the other dead, probably. And many people either having lost a lot of money or gained a lot of money. Who is that, Kingy? It's a football player. Retired in 2017. Path to greatness. He has a Twitter. Well, I'll be. What? He did? That's terrible. Frick, man. Dang, people, I mean, that is a thing, isn't it? People actually do dogfighting. Yeesh. Yeah, I bet. Golly. Well, hey, yeah, that's appropriate to the story here. Most broken player in the history of NFL football video games. I see. Huh. Well, they should nerf him. Should nerf him for being a dingus. Oh, wait. Emerald would argue otherwise, it would seem. All right, so let's continue the story. Let us continue the story. By the time the judge came around, Steve had been brushed, washed, and was ready to go. When he's clean like that, he damn near glows. Unicorns have been regarded as symbols of purity, innocence, and good for so long that it's hard to shake it from your mind. As I pulled Steve in front of the judge, those were the words that came to mind. Steve is 18 hands of purity. Just not the kind they're thinking of. Justice can be pure too. People also associate purity with words like feminine and dainty. But Steve is about as dainty as a tank. If you put a saddle and armor on him, he could be a war horse. Hoof came down gently on my foot. A hoof came down gently on my foot. I hadn't been paying attention, and I'd missed what the judge said. Excuse me? He's a beaut, the judge repeated. The judge was pale and a little sweaty, despite the weather outside. He smelt sour, like he had an aversion to water except for the ice in his highball. He didn't offer me a name, and I wasn't surprised. The judge continued to run his hands over and through Steve's mane, coat, and hooves. He found nothing but scars. I could tell he was surprised that Steve had fought before, though he tried to hide it. He took one solid look at my unicorn. Finally, he nodded at me. Never thought I'd see the day. A white unicorn. He rested a gentle hand on my partner, and for a split second, I could see behind the judge's mask. Regret nestled there. Longing. A yearning for something he thought was long gone or not possible. Then the moment was gone, and the mask came back. You'll fight in the 3rd round, the judge said. Good luck. He started to walk away, but looked back over his shoulder. Pity, he mumbled. I wanted to ask him why. Out of every competitor here, Steve was the pity? Because of what he symbolizes? Steve started to walk back into the stall, and I followed him. Pity. What a useless emotion when you don't act on it. Pity is supposed to be trigger. A trigger for compassion. The judge had forgotten that. But we'd show him. We'd show him you're supposed to stand up, not walk away. We always did. We always did. I went in early to watch. The fights were held in the main room of the warehouse, which resembled an airplane hangar. Taking up most of the space was chain-link domed monstrosity. Was a chain-link domed monstrosity of a cage sitting in the middle. Chain-link may not seem like much of a deterrent, but the fencing was magic and warded. I could see it, even if the crowd couldn't. I didn't really think it mattered. The animals were too beaten down and trained to ever consider escaping on their own. Metal bleachers flanked the dome, each one full to bursting with people you would never expect to see on a cheap metal seat in a warehouse. Let's just say that if you went looking under those bleachers for loose change, you'd probably come back with handfuls of $100 bills. For these guys, that was loose change. There were a few people here and there in cheap jeans and threadbare jackets. Their watches, knockoff Rolexes. Their phones, last year's models. Faces like mine. Trainers. The first fight was a non-fatal win. Harpy versus Manticore. The Harpy strutted around, her sharp talons clicking against the concrete, her filthy feathers rustling, muck-encrusted breasts hanging down to her scrawny bird knees. Her eyes were mad, and she foamed from her mouth, screeching insults from a twisted maw. The Manticore paced, his lion body smooth and feline, looking graceful despite the incongruous man-head that stared the Harpy down. The Harpy looked like she was going to lose, but in the last second, she hamstrung one of the Manticore's back legs. The combatants weren't allowed outside weapons, but teeth and claws didn't count. The Harpy used her own talons to slice into the Manticore's flesh and tear muscle. The wound would probably get infected. I've seen what Harpy nails look like. Odds were heavy that, even though neither creature died in the bout, there would be a delayed fatality. Hey yo, welcome Card Butt. How you doing, man? The second match featured a Minotaur and a what now? A Wep-Wawit? A Wep-Wawit? What is a Wep-Wawit? Excuse me? Hang on. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. What is a Wep-Wawit? I gotta find my place again. Oh wait, I see Wep-Wawit again. Here it is. Dude, what is a Wep-Wawit? Anybody know? Oh! Oh! Is this? In late Egyptian mythology, Wep-Wawit was originally a war deity whose cult center was Asiut in Upper Egypt. His name means opener of the ways, and he is often depicted as a wolf standing at the prow of a solar boat. Some interpret that Wep-Wawit was seen as a scout. Why is his name Wep-Wawit? Am I pronouncing it right? Am I? He's a wolf deity. Thus the Greek name of Lycopolis, meaning city of wolves. It is likely the case that Wep-Wawit was originally just a symbol of the pharaoh, seeking to associate with wolf-like attributes. That's sus. All I'm saying. I know, Remy. I was gonna say that. It sounds like the Uwu voice. Wep-Wawit. Or the Wep-Wawit. We'll get the with the Wep-Wawit. Or look at him. Whoops, I meant to do this. Look at the with the wep wawet. Look at it. This is a wep wawet. Hang on. There we go. This is a wep wawet. Also, no, I will not make the text bigger. So that it's less, so that it's less, flippin' pixelated and blurry. I watched a crazy Sandra Bullock movie from the 90s with an evil hacker corporation named Gatekeeper. Yo, that sounds tight. Yeah, it's an Egyptian god of war. Wep Wawet. I know, right, Carpet? That's what I'm saying. Alright, now, we're gonna leave this on the screen. Just have Wep Wawet there at all times. Wep Wa Wet. Wep Wa Wet. It's short for like a weaponized wallet, essentially. That's what I'm thinking this this means. All right, get out of here, Wepwawit. Oh, true. I actually could make it scroll. All right. Be very quiet. I'm hunting for Wepwawits. I'm hunting for Wepwawits. Be very quiet. I'm hunting Wepwawits. The second match featured a Minotaur and a Wepwawit. Dude, that's the match of a century, right there. The second match featured a Minotaur and a Wepwawit. The Minotaur loomed over the Wepwawit, who was tall for a human, which was the majority of his body, except humans don't have the head of a jackal. I'd never seen a Wepwawit up close. In the ring, they were even more rare than creatures like Steve. The jackal-headed creatures were supposed to be sacred to the god Anubis. They were guides to the underworld, protectors, not fighters, like unicorns. The Minotaur moved slowly on muscle-bound legs. His upper body was wide, like a bull on steroids. The Minotaur kept charging, but the Wepwawit would just sidestep, duck all the defensive moves. His body language said calm, but his muscles relaxed and loose. Oh, his body language said calm, his muscles relaxed and loose. Like I said, they're rare, so my experience was non-existent. But everything was telling me that the Wepwawit wasn't into the fight. Unlike the Minotaur, the Wepwawit was clothed, but only in some sort of golden skirt, and two rude copper bracelets. The skirt swayed and moved with him, almost part of him. The bracelets glinted dully. They weren't his. I knew that with an odd certainty. The Wepwawit would never be so crude. I gotta say, saying Wepwawit that many times is throwing off my diction. Genuinely. Say Wepwawit enough times and you'll forget how to speak. That's just a fact. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. Wepwawit, Wepwawit, Wepwawit. I can't do it, dude. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. Come on, you guys have to try it at home too. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. How do you even move your face like that? With enough speed? Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. It's the T at the end. Wepwawit. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. Alright, I give up. I think I got it like 5 times in a row. Yeah, Emerald. I'm casting an ancient curse. Wepwawit, 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 Wepwawit. Wepwawit. Just haphazardly invoking the name of the opener of the way. You know, I didn't think about it like that, but you're absolutely right. Wepwawit, I'm sorry. Sorry, dog. I don't know. Is calling your dog offensive? I hope not. I say that with the utmost respect. You gotta understand. Because, you know, he's got a dog head. He's like the head of a jackal. So if you call him dog, that's respectful? Probably. It's either respectful or immensely offensive. Unsure. Wepwawitchize. Like I would Wepwever. The Minotaur began to wheeze. Must have taken a lot of energy to move that bulk around, and the prolonged fighting began to wear it down. After a few minutes, the Wepwawit seemed to take pity, and in a blur, he struck down the Minotaur. The jackal refused to take the kill, but left the Minotaur bleeding on the floor, unconscious. As he left, I swear he looked at me, right in my eyes, down to the dusty corners of my being. I couldn't pull away. The jackal had large black pupils and glowing golden irises that for some reason made me think of how Steve had seemed to glow earlier. In Egyptian mythos, the Wepwawit leads souls down to the underworld. He throws the discarded souls onto a giant scale. If your essence is as light as a feather that rests in the other balance, you go to the afterlife. If not, he feeds you to a giant hippo-like creature. I forget what it's called. I just know that you don't want it to eat you or your essence. Finally, the Wepwawit blinked and kept walking. I stood still for another beat, stuck in that frozen moment you get sometimes when confronted with something amazing and beautiful. When I came back to myself, I wondered what the Wepwawit had seen in me, whether or not my soul was hippo food. Hey! Sorry, guys. Peeps busted in my room. Yeah, we were talking about, something personal, so I had to step away for a second. But I'm back now. Thank you for, bearing with the sudden interruption. I wonder what the hippo creature is. Here it is. Hippo food. I'm gonna look it up real quick. What is the hippo creature that the Wepwawet feeds souls to? That is something I never thought I would Google, frankly. The Tawerit. I think this is the one. Alright, let me show you. This thing. A Tawerit, also spelled tart. Twert? Are you gonna tell me there's like a ancient Egyptian being called a twert? It's, it's called a twert. The corner of your being is dusty. It's a protective ancient Egyptian goddess of childbirth and fertility. Is this the one that the Wepwawit feeds souls to? Hang on, let me see if Wepwawit is mentioned here. Nope. No instances of Wepwawit. Man. A demoness and goddess in ancient Egyptian religion. The forequarters of a lion, the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, the head of something. Nah, I don't think it's coming up. Yeah, because I don't think it was a deity that it fed souls to. It was like it was just a thing, like a creature. Twert. Twert? Twert? I will twert like it's my first day on Earth. Twert like it's your twert day on Earth, guys. Alright, let's see. Got hippo food. The audience milled impatiently while I went to get Steve. 2 non-fatal matches back-to-back struck me as a rare event, and the crowd began to get bloodthirsty. They'd get their fill. Steve never disappointed. What? Steve is gonna... Wait, what? Hold up. Steve is gonna kill whoever he's up against? But why? I thought they were here to save the creatures. Are they just here to, like, wipe the creatures out? Like some kind of mercy killing? And I think it was Mitch chapter 5 that said, Mitch wepwa wept. Owen was a stretch. My bad. The murmuring died as we walked in. For a blink, there was nothing but glorious silence. Then a swell of voices broke out, crashing into me as I walked by. Gasps, whispers, outright shouts. A few people even stood. I concentrated on the crisp bite of Steve's hooves on the concrete as we walked into the cage. In the other corner, a chained wahila snarled at us. Wahilas are usually found in Alaska or Canada, anywhere remote and cold. We were about 20 minutes outside of Chicago. Not really their prime habitat. They look like a polar bear and an Arctic wolf had a baby. Long white coats, broad, flat heads, and the bulk of a bear. But the rest of them is all wolf. This one had been shaved, and the collar around his neck looked like it had been there for a while. Wahilas were loners, and avoided confrontation unless they were hungry. Like most animals, they don't fight for sport. But this one looked like he had been kept hungry for a long time. The owner standing next to him looked pretty well fed, though. The owner standing next to him looked pretty well fed, though. The whistle blew, the chains were dropped, and I stepped away from Steve to make my way quickly out of the cage. The Wahila's owner was long gone before the chains even hit the ground. The creature let loose a throat-rattling howl, and the temperature dropped. I wonder if I can rattle it. I can't, dude. I can't rattle my voice and make it loud, can I? Dude, I'm not sure about this one. I'm trying to recreate the sound, the throat-rattling howl of a wahila. Rawr. There we go. Now I nailed it. Free the cryptids, right? Don't hurt myself. Dude, don't worry about that. I could never. Alright. creature let loose a throat-rattling howl, and the temperature dropped. Ice formed on the floor around him and began to spread out. Steve gave a disdainful snort and put his horn against the frozen floor. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up. I've got music for this. Now we're No, I'm just kidding. Not that one, of course. Shoot, I guess it was in the other playlist. Wait, here we go. All right. Row. Roar. The creature let loose a throat-rattling howl, and the temperature dropped. Ice formed on the floor around him and began to spread out. Steve gave a disdainful snort, put his horn against the frozen floor. Soon there were puddles instead of ice. This was a new trick even to me. The Wahila hurled himself at Steve, causing a horrific crash as the two tumbled into the side of the cage. Both of them righted themselves, but the wolf creature seemed groggy. He blinked a few times, tilting his head at Steve like he was listening, his features relaxing and losing some of the frenzied look. Then the thing went down, as they say, like a ton of fuzzy bricks. The crowd roared. The fight had been too short. No bloodshed. Was the thing even dead? I could only hear random snippets through all the yelling, but I got the gist of things. Both the well-fed owner and I motioned back into the cage. The man made sure I went first, proving that chivalry is indeed dead. I'd like to say he ran to the Wahila's side out of concern, but instead he walked slowly over and kicked him. I hovered at the cage door, making the attendant keep it open. I thought that battle was going to be longer as well, frankly. Even though I'd been paying attention, I barely caught the movement. A quick blur, a spray of blood, too fast for the Wahila's owner to even scream. He just suddenly had no leg. Or I should say his leg was suddenly elsewhere. It hit the ground with a wet thud and split. It hit the ground with a wet thud, and a split second later. Then the Wahila pounced, and I could no longer see his handler. Blood poured and splattered. By the time it hit the concrete, it was freezing into patterns, like hoarfrost on a window. It was kind of pretty. I hadn't been inside the Wahila's head when Steve tapped him in the arena. That was Steve's power, not mine. But I can imagine how it had gone. There had been at first time for me, too. Had to be a shock for a cold-based creature's head to suddenly be filled with that springtime mind. Still, he hadn't argued. He'd thrown the fight like Steve suggested. They didn't always. Occasionally, a creature had been so beaten down and abused that its mind was broken, and all it knew was the fight. That's why Steve had scars, and that's why we kept going to these fights. Someone had to stick up for the little guy, sooner or later. The promoters had to give up, right? Either way. Either that, or we'd eventually run out of promoters. Steve and I would see to that. So that's what they meant when they said, they'll provide the bloodshed, all right. The crowd panicked and swirled, some running for the exits, some yelling at the bloodshed, happy they'd finally seen something die. Handlers, animals, what did the spectators care? Handlers, animals, what did the spectators care? In their minds, I guess it was the same. The attendant tried to slam the door, but I stubbornly held it open, like a human doorstop. Steve came charging out, a brilliant blur. I sidestepped, grabbed onto his mane, and swung up, a movement worn smooth with practice. Steve plowed through the crowd, scattering the people in his wake. I reached back and moved my ponytail aside so I could get down the back of my jacket. The metal was warm to the touch as I yanked the bronze rod from his harness. My fingers found the slight depressions, and I squeezed until the ends extended, the metal sliding out with a hiss. I raised my spear above my head and screamed my battle cry. Funny thing about these matches, they pat down the creatures, but they never, ever checked the handlers. Another battle cry tore from my throat, and I heard answering cries from the kennels. Yeah! The air crackled around me, and I knew if I looked at myself, I'd see my mother's blessing crystallize in a bronze circlet on my brow, my jacket morphing into a cape of swan feathers. Steve's mind met mine. Sunshine and green fields, the iron tang of bloodshed, and the reek of sweat. I grinned like a mad thing. Steve reared, and I laughed at both of us showing off. The people in front of us screamed and tried to flee, but we ignored them and crushed our way back to the kennels. Some idiot tried to block us, as he held one arm out, the other clutching a box of betting slips. I recognized the reedy-looking man from check-in. The two security guards from earlier flanked him, clearly pissed that they hadn't caught my weapon. Pissed turned to terrified as we charged them. Even the guards figured out that the two of them versus an angry chick with a 9-foot barbed spear perched on an 18 hands of unicorn fury was a no-contest fight. The check-in guy stood his ground. I stabbed past him, dragging the barbed edge against the side of his thigh as I pulled back. Ow! He collapsed, dropping the betting slips in his hurry to cover the wound. It would hurt like hell, but he wouldn't bleed out into his own personal paper blizzard as long as he sought medical attention. It was probably more than he deserved. We swung past the cages. Steve slowed his gallop as I leant down and started slicing locks. I freed the Hydra, 2 centaurs, a chimera, 3 hellhounds, a woozy minotaur, and what might or might not have been a chupacabra. After that, I stopped paying attention and just started opening doors. The last cage contained the Wepwawet. Steve slowed to a walk, and I slid off his back. The Wepwawet stood, head high, stately gold eyes drifting from me to Steve. He dipped his chin toward the unicorn, who mimicked the movement back. I twisted my spear and broke the lock. The Wepwawet walked casually towards us, out of his cage. I watched every movement. My spear gripped tightly in my right hand as I wiped a bead of what was either sweat or blood off my cheek. You'd be surprised how similar those two substances can be. He stopped in front of me. "That is a fine weapon. That is a fine weapon." The words floated into my head like music. The tone, a bass roar from an orchestra. I grinned and held the spear up to him on the flats of my palms. "It's celestial," I said. "Valkyrie." He made it a question. I shook my head. "Only half," I said, "on my mother's side." "And your father?" "A mechanic from Rhode Island." His tongue lolled out. Lol, 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 lol. Yeah, no, for real. Chupacabras are hard to ID. Every time I see one, I can't get a read on them. I don't know if you guys are the same. His tongue lolled out. It made him look like he was laughing at me. He was lolling, dude. "What will you do now? What will you do now?" He extended his bronzed hands, palms up, toward my spear. If I may. I handed it over to him, and with a ringing clang, he struck the barbed blade against the cuffs on each of his wrists. They fell to the floor, charred and ruined. Satisfied, he handed the blade back to me. I'd been right. They weren't his. They were restrictive. He reached out and a void appeared, an oval of blackness in space. He reached into the void, and when he pulled his arm back out, he was holding a nasty-looking scimitar. Then he repeated the motion and pulled out another, one for each hand. He gave them an experimental heft. He saluted me with one of the scimitars. Now his voice whispered into my mind. "You will have to excuse me. I have many to lead into the underworld. Not all of my fellow prisoners have fled. Some have stayed to seek their revenge upon their owners. I cannot say I blame them." He lowered his arms to his sides, the tips of the blades in his hands almost kissing the concrete. "I am in your debt, and I will never forget it. If you ever need a favor, you call for Ed. You call for Ed. Ed and Eddie." He didn't tell me how to call him. I guess I would just have to scream, "Ed!" into the night and hope something happened. I watched him as he exited the kennel. I should have asked him to give me a leg up before he left. Metal bit into my hands as I climbed one of the kennel doors and clambered onto Steve's back. It's harder to get up at a dead stop, especially wearing a cape made of swan feathers. She's wearing a cape made of swan feathers? Okay. All right. It's just as difficult to climb a kennel door with a spear in your hand. Sometimes my heritage is a pain in the butt. I leant into Steve, tired. With the adrenaline gone, I didn't have much left in me. Steve began to walk out, leaving the screams behind us. Perhaps the fights would die down for a while, but they'd start up again. I knew I'd have to keep my ear to the ground. Listen to see if the survivors talked. No one would believe the few who did. A white unicorn that fought? A fairy tale. A rumor. The after effects of a head injury. Anything but the truth. We hadn't had any problems so far, but I'd keep a close eye on the rumor mill anyway, and see what whispers evolved. That was the thing about humans. They found it so easy to discard the implausible and the unbelievable. People ignored anything that made them uncomfortable. A forgetful, ungrateful race that looked at unicorns and saw purity, and looked at me and saw the weakness they thought inherent in my sex. Gone is the memory of the unicorn as the protector of the forest, the guardian of the weak and innocent. Vanished are the warrior women of antiquity, the Furies, the Morrigan, the Valkyries. Violence was in our blood, but humans have forgotten all that. Steve and I together, we create balance. We just did it vigilante style. Hey, it had worked so far. I kept my spear out, holding it loosely at my side. I trusted Steve not to jolt me off his back. A soft padding sound came from behind me. We both turned our heads and discovered the Wahila trotting behind us. Some of his white fuzz was matted with blood and dirt. He paused, then sat, looking like a patient wolf. A mutant patient wolf. I looked at Steve. If a look could be a shrug, that's what he gave me. You want to come with us? You want to come with us? I asked. The Wahila stood, and I swear his tail wagged. It's a little less friendly when the wager is encrusted in the former owner's blood. Oh, when the wagger is encrusted in his former owner's blood. The bushes next to me rustled then, and the Wahila's head snapped in that direction. But he didn't growl. Jonah stepped out of the bush, his hands shaking as they held onto a flimsy blue jacket. I had to give him some credit, though. His voice only shook a little as he asked me if it was safe to be in the open. I told you to go home, I said. I forgot my jacket. You could have bought a new jacket. He shook his head, his lips pressed tight. And I got it. No way Jonah would spend money that could go to his family when he could just run back in and grab it. Cannon fodder. The kid was lucky he hadn't been eaten. I shrugged and tapped Steve. We needed to reach our trailer to get going. Then I needed to find a car wash for the Wahila to run through. When Steve didn't move, I looked to see what the holdup was, and discovered 3 pairs of puppy dog eyes on me. Oh no. Hell no. Absolutely not. I glared at Steve, thinking, traitor. He didn't feel one speck of guilt over it either. Jonah surged forward, and then pulled himself back hesitant. He twisted his jacket in his hands. I'm good with them, he said. I can help out. I'm useful, I promise. I can't not work. And this place, He trailed off, eyes darting to the side door as a lady wearing a white fur coat came stumbling out. She staggered to the side and vomited, and I could see a pink smear of blood down her back. I didn't think it was hers. Steve made a "fur is murder" joke in my head, and I hit him. Carpet. What the whip wawit doing? Hey, what the whip wawit doing? This place won't be open anytime soon, Jonah said, his eyes never leaving the woman. Please! We travel a lot, I said. Won't your family want you home? He shook his head quickly. As long as I send money, they won't care. Jonah and I stared at each other for a good 2 minutes, while Steve and I argued silently. Finally, I broke. I guess today is our day to pick up strays, I said, holding out a hand to him. He let out a whoop and ran to us so I could pull him up behind me. Sorry, my whoop sounded too much like a siren, like a police siren. It made me giggle. He weighed almost nothing. I looked over at the Wahila. With his fur so short, I could count his ribs. What a motley crew. A warrior chick and a battle unicorn. Now that was an image to inspire fear. But a warrior chick, a unicorn, a half-starved kid, and a mangy mutant dog? Not so much. Jonah sneezed and I turned. Or, you okay? He blushed. I'm allergic to feathers. Of course you are, I said, turning back around as he sneezed again. We finally started heading toward the trailer, away from the now eerily silent warehouse and the vomiting woman. Allergic. We're supposed to be badasses, Jonah. Walking off into the sunset, the smell of victory in the air. Your sneezing fit is ruining our image. Sorry, he sniffed. The sun won't set for another hour or two anyway. Shut up, Jonah. Do I have to give you back the money? No, and stop talking. Heroes don't chatter as they ride off into the horizon. Does it always taste like sunshine when the unicorn talks to you? Yes. What did he say? He says that what he loves most about you is your stoicism and patience. Steve's a liar. He's pathological. That's the first thing you need to know. Now give me $10 back. I'm going to stop at the first gas station I see and buy some earplugs. He sniffled. Make that 30. You're getting some allergy medication. Okay. I bet by then it will be sunset and we can drive the trailer into it. And then you can have your moment. I rolled my eyes, slumping in the saddle as I did. I had this terrible image of us riding into our next fight to a soundtrack of sneezes. Then Steve butted in with his sunshine mind and reminded me that image wasn't everything. And it was better than leaving the kid behind. He reminded me that I'd thought of Jonah as cannon fodder earlier in the day, when he pulled up an image of a scrawny teenager with braces, yours truly, and pushed the word potential at me in bold. Sometimes, he said, they even grow out of their allergies. That's not true. Allergies are with you for life. They will not go away, and they will be with you for eternity. That's a promise. Sorry, I just listen. Allergies never left me. And that's the opposite of the cat's pajamas. I mean, I even took like allergy shots for a long time, and there's no it's like solving allergies as far as I know. You just gotta use allergy meds. I straightened up in my saddle and felt Jonah do the same behind me. That was when it occurred to me that I was a role model now. What a terrifying thought. I glanced down and saw that the Wahila had done the same. His spine was a firm line, his head was high, and his steps were light. Well, light for a Wahila. Giant frosty paw prints stretched out behind us on the cracked cement. This isn't the life I'm used to. Even I could hear the whine in my mental voice. A chuckle like a warm breeze echoed in my head. Hey, you'll get used to it, Steve said. Then he began to prance the way you see horses in parades do. I think, he said, tossing his mane like a woman in a hair commercial, that you may even grow to like it. I probably will, I said, but only if you stop acting like a stereotypical teenage girl. We're warriors, damn it! And we look good while we're doing it. He raised his knees even higher, his hooves cutting a staccato rhythm as we went. I rested the butt of my spear on the tip of my shoe and threw my shoulders out. No sunset, and it smelled more like sweat, horse, and teenage boy than victory. But I could live with that. It wasn't ideal, but sometimes you've got to go with what you got and make it look good. Yeah! Yeah! Bow. Yeah! Bow. Doing that classic, yeah, rocker voice with the guitar strum and everything. You've gotten and lost allergies throughout your life? Weird, dude. Well, I guess for me, I will not ever lose my allergies, but I hope for others it is different. I hope for me it is different, frankly. Well, what a story. What a story, huh? We'll head over here for a little bit. Guys, that was pretty bonkers. Honestly, the beginning held potential. For me, at least. You know, there is plenty to do with unicorns that is pretty sick. You know, there's potential for a unicorn story that is dark, deep, and pretty cool. But the latter half of this story, it just completely went off the wall for me. It was doing real well, right? As I said at the beginning here, or when I stopped partway through to talk about it, the humor was wrapped in the muck, right? And it was enough humor to where it, it accentuated the muck that was around it. But it didn't lead me to not take the muck seriously, right? There's a balance there that I feel was upheld to a certain point. And then when she hopped on the back of the unicorn, started just bolting through the place, smashing locks and releasing everybody, and then bolting out, deciding to take on the kid Jonah and the flippin' wolf bear. What is it called again? Not a mangy mutant dog. The Wahila. There it is. Once it got to all that, I just felt it threw the seriousness out the window, and embraced the cheesy young adult type of writing style that is just not, I don't know. It's I feel that it can be done well if it's embraced fully, but it felt like this one didn't embrace it till the end, you know? Do you know what kind of style I'm talking about? Hang on, I can give you an example here. Go back over here for a second. Um Actually, at the end here is a great example. This right here, then he begun to prance the way you see horses in parades do. I think he said, tossing his mane like a woman in hair commercial. That you may even grow to like it. Uh, but only if you stop acting like a stereotypical teenage girl. These are the kind of lines that I feel crop up in young adult fiction a lot. And again, as I said, I'm a fan of this. I feel like a lot of this comes up in the Percy Jackson series. You know, these moments of just kind of uh embracing the cheesy way of writing that is, you know, it kind of makes me cringe a bit, but it's that type of cringe that is wholesome. If that at all makes sense. Um, it's one of those things where like you feel like you shouldn't enjoy a line like that, or I feel like I shouldn't enjoy a line like that. And so when I do, it just gives me that feeling of like I shouldn't enjoy this, but I do. And yeah, I just felt like the balance was off here. You know, in a story like Percy Jackson, with it being a novel and such, the balance of it from chapter to chapter, I felt flowed pretty darn well. But in a short story like this, they just kind of went off the ball towards the end there. Altogether, I still had a blast reading it though. And it was a longer short story than I'd anticipated. The ending was a little bit rushed. Um, I did enjoy the Wep Wawit part. If anything, I would say I appreciate this story for bringing to my attention that the jackal-headed, one of the jackal-headed deities of the old Egyptian mythos is called the Wep Wawit. I can't, and you can go back and look at my reaction to when I first saw that word. Mind-boggling. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to be mad at it. Are you kidding me? You know, as I said, I do feel that it lost some of the serious tone it had acquired towards the beginning there. Um, and so there's a little bit of me that uh sees the potential of what it could have garnered, which is a more dark and serious tone. However, it's hard, it's hard to get mad at an ending like that. When suddenly she's riding on the unicorn with a great long spear weapon, smashing locks. Please don't get me wrong. That is a good thing. that that is a fun time, no matter what. When you have an ending that that just kicks into the action like that, it's good stuff. All right, well, gonna call it there today. Yeah, hold up. Let me pause this. And yeah, we'll load up the outro theme in a sec here. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I enjoyed our time together. I enjoyed the chance to read to you. And I hope you'll stick around with us here at the 3 Addict stream. We got some great streamers coming up. I think Couch is next. I love that guy to death. And I'll be right there with you hanging. So stick with us, and I'll see you on the next stream. Remember to take the merriment that we found here together today, the laughs, the giggles, the fun times. Let it set you at ease as you go forth with your goings-ons today, and let it carry you into tomorrow. I love you all bunches, and remember to love yourself first so that you might love others next. Spread the merriment, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.